Hello, and welcome to another great edition of Money Truth Moments with our very own Money Whisperer, Judy Copenbarger. How are you this morning?
I am fantastic. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm really more excited about the fact that the last couple of weeks we've been talking about understanding the importance of personal and family financial planning. And what's great is that it's actually turned out to be a small mini series. So I think we're wrapping it up today with part three on there. So if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. Make sure that you are following Judy at judycopenbarger.today. All of her social media links are on there. So make sure you connect with her. And welcome, folks. So I don't want to run out of time. So let's talk about part three again. Let's start with like what role does budgeting play in personal financial planning, and how can it be effectively implemented?
Yeah, well, budgeting is a big deal. And it's something that can be learned, but it's really got to be practiced and be part of who you are. And a lot of times when I'm dealing with people who struggle in this area, they've never really had a method for how to allocate their expenses. Where do the dollars go? You got to give each dollar a role, right? You only have so many every month. And people struggle with that. I think a common mistake that people make when they're budgeting is they think only about the monthly expenses, like the right now money. And I
Mhm.
think you need to also allocate dollars for the goals that you have, the extraordinary expenses that are maybe not happening every month, like insurance premiums, car repairs, things that are not normally, part of your budget. And then also think about savings for later. Some people don't make part of their spending plan every month paying themselves. They don't think about money for later or for their retirement plan or their anniversary trips, things like that. So I think when people do that, they serve themselves very well. And it's an important part, it's kind of a fundamental part. I mean, it doesn't matter what you invest in or what you're going to do with all your wealth accumulation if you can't control where the dollars go when they initially hit your bank account. So it's huge.
Yeah, and in kind of talking about that, can you expand a little bit on how families can protect themselves financially against? He talked about those unexpected events or emergencies, right? What are
Yeah.
some key bullet points that folks may? And remember, folks, you guys need to write this down. Judy always talks about pen and paper, right? So make sure you write some of this down. But yeah, maybe some tips that they can help them in those unexpected events or emergencies that come up.
Well, surprises do happen. Financial surprises happen all the time. So I think the people that are best prepared when those things do happen, they've got savings. You always want to have a nice cash reserve set aside. Another front line of defense is insurances, just making sure you have the right kind for the right reasons and you're not overpaying for insurances. Um, during COVID, a lot of people had issues, not only personal financial issues, but small businesses. And the ones that were able to pivot, they were able to really thrive, not just kind of survive, or some didn't even survive, were the ones that had a line of credit that they could get their hands on. Their credit score was appropriate, where they could borrow money either against their home or from the bank for their business to capitalize it. Or you saw these restaurants that had to go outdoor dining and they had to build outdoor seating and put up the glass,
Mhm.
plexiglass. Remember all that? Well, that's
Yeah.
expensive. And so the companies that were able to access cash in that event that nobody saw coming, they did well. So having a good credit score, protecting that, know your numbers, um, making sure that you have a line of credit for your business or personal is a big deal. And then, there's also legal protections you can put in place, making sure your business entity is proper, the contracts are written correctly, your estate plan is correct. There are a lot of things that you can do, but um, I think savings is probably key. One thing I gotta say, one thing that makes me so excited when we have one of these crises, we come out of a tough time as a nation. Sometimes it's regionally too with weather events. Um, is people kind of wake up and they start thinking about their budget, their spending plan. They start thinking about savings and am I ready? And so every time we have something bad like that happen, right after that, people the rate of savings nationally goes up. The
Mhm.
percent that you save every month. I wish everybody just did it all the time as a habit. We are consumers here, and I am one too. And we tend to spend, and we want the next thing, and we want to upgrade that thing, and we want a bigger, newer thing. And you see this with technology. Kids want the gadgets, and people want their cell phones. They want the newest camera and the newest whatever. So I think it's just really important to be prepared, Pay yourself first, save, manage all of that. Again, it's a fundamental element of really good financial planning.
So it's going to lead me to actually a perfect segue into when we're talking about saving, when we're talking about our future, right? We've talked about, actually, more importantly, you talked about the fact that there is no such thing as a for sure thing, right? Put all your eggs in one basket. So when we're talking about this, what are maybe some strategies for saving and investing to build your wealth over time?
Well, you got to pay yourself first. And it goes back to that allocation of the dollars as they come in. Put some away for you. You're going to pay for housing. You're going to put gas in your tank. You're going to pay for food. Pay yourself too. And some people never think to put themselves on the list. I think that's important. When people get that, even if it's a little bit to start, you want to do it, and it's actually money that you put away, and you don't go raid, when you're short. Another thing is, on the investment side, you want to grow your money. Definitely we got to beat inflation, but you want to grow wealth, right? Accumulate wealth, but you want to do it in a protected way. And so if you look at how games are won, pick a game, football, tennis, doesn't matter what it is. Every champion got there because they were doing two things. They were doing offense and they were doing defense, right? They knew how to do really well, how to score, how to get ahead, how to get points, but they also knew how to keep the other team or the other person from scoring on them. You've got to have both in your financial world as well. So there are things that you do that are protective of your assets as they're growing, and things that you do that are growth oriented. And you got to do both. And we do a deep dive on this in a lot of these shows, a lot of these podcasts. There's information online that you can look at. But you want to make sure that you're doing these things for the right reasons, and make sure that you're growing and protecting at the same time. I think that the last thing, just, by way of general advice, very general and generic advice, would be kind of the 70-30 rule. And again, you might be more aggressive, you might be more conservative, but a moderate way to go would be 70% in your investment portfolio is equities. That's where you own something and you get dividends from it, and there's the growth and value that happens there. That's going to be things like stock. You think of stock, you think of real estate, anything that you actually own and you have some kind of a title for. And when it does better, you do better, right? And that's about 70%. Again, it's generic advice. So you might be 80 or 85 or 90, you might be 60. And then the other 30%, the other portion, is that defensive part. So when stocks are doing well, bonds aren't. When bonds are doing well, stocks aren't. And that's generally how it goes. So there's like this inverse relationship between those two classes of investments. So that other 30% should be something that's not equity. So it might be alternatives. It might be something that's interest related. You think about commercial paper, treasury bills, treasury notes, bonds, things like that. So if you have a 70-30 or whatever your number is based on your risk tolerance and your goals and your horizon, that will help you. But balance, I think, is the third element of doing well in this area, making sure that you're saving and growing well. If you're balanced, and if you're growing in a protected way and you're paying yourself first, you're way ahead of the game.
That's great advice. And folks, if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. If you are also following Judy, make sure that you continue to follow some of the episodes, as well as judycopenbarger.today. For you that are just joining us, please make sure you watch the beginning of the show. We're on the part 3 of a small series that we've been talking about, understanding the importance of personal and family financial planning. So there's been a lot of great content. Obviously, we haven't been able to cover everything in one show, so here we are, part 3. So I want to keep going. I mean, this has been some great ways to open up people's minds, people's eyes as to what we need to do, right, when we're planning. So in creating our personal financial planning, how do we help individuals and families navigate those major life events, right? Like buying a home, starting a family, planning for retirement, depending where you are in life.
Yeah. Or a new car. I had a client just the other day, young gal, she's approaching 30, very fiscally responsible. We got her on a plan about 3 years ago. She's 3 years in and just doing everything right, ready to get a house. I mean, she's just doing great. And one of the things that she said when we first sat down was, I don't like debt. I don't like bills. I don't like paying that stuff. I have everything automated and I'm not going to, go into debt. So I like to pay cash for stuff. And it's like, I like you already. But you can't always do that. You can get to the point where you do that. But we set her up on a plan. Just the other day, we were talking about this. She was able to pay cash for her last car, and it's a brand new, nice car, beautiful, big SUV, beautiful. And now she's putting $200 a month away for the next car, which probably won't happen for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, because the car she has is great. But she's putting money away now, so she'll have it ready for either an initial investment or cash for the next vehicle that she buys. And so the way you do that is you just say, what's my goal? And you work backwards from there. So, for example, if she knows in 5 years she needs X number of dollars, we calculated it's 200 a month. It's going to grow, right? Because it's invested. And that'll give her enough that she needs when that time comes. So not only does she achieve the goal of avoiding debt, but she'll achieve the goal of having a car without having to think about how am I going to pay for it? The money will already be there. And you can do that for everything. You can do it for retirement. Imagine if you pull up at age 55, 60, 65, 70, whatever it is for you, and you say, okay, I don't want my work that I do to be the source of my income anymore, the source of my, how I'm going to pay my expenses, right? I want to do something else with my time, volunteer or be with my family or whatever else that is, travel, golf, whatever it is. And so now my money will actually be the source for all of these expenses that I have. So you can plan for that. But imagine when you get to that age on your birthday or on that retirement date, you look at your bank account and you have confidence that the money will be there to replace what your income needs to be. And you don't have to go to work if you don't want to, or think about, wow, what's my plan B? Right? So that's what can happen with personal planning. And it's just a matter of setting goals, charting the course, and then doing those things between now and your goal date that need to happen to give you that certainty.
And that sound also, it sounds like you talked about this before. It sounds really easy, but we just got to get out there and do it, right? And it leads me to another subject that it's actually you've talked about before. You've talked about the importance of what it is. And so the question I have for you is, how does the estate planning factor into personal financial planning, and why is it important to consider it?
Yeah. Estate planning, it's something people don't think about unless something has happened. If something close to them, we just, buried an uncle this weekend. And unless something happens close to you, you don't even think about it. You're just doing life. You're kind of on the hamster wheel, raising your kids, doing your job, doing your thing, and then these events happen and you go, wow. And it's interesting. Here in Southern California, we have earthquakes. They talk about the earthquakes in California, which when you live here, it's not a big deal. When you don't, people get nervous. Every time we have one, the phone rings because people think, what if, right? Maybe I better get that will done. I better think about protecting my family. What if, I better get my trust done, whatever. It's interesting when there's a catastrophe or a life event for someone, maybe they attended a funeral or something. It's like, okay, let's get in there and get that done. But it's important for life events too, not just if you die. So what if you, the porch light's on, but nobody's home? What if that happens? And we've all had that happen in our families, people that we care about, people close to us where, you're living, but you're really not living.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's a short period of time. Sometimes it goes on for months, years, even. The dementia, the Alzheimer's, the strokes, all of these conditions, Lou Gehrig's, some of these conditions that just go on MS that go on for a long time. And it could be that you're mentally not there. It could be you're physically not there or capable of taking care of business like you used to. It might be temporary. It might be permanent. But either way, you need to have documents in place that will allow the business to go on without you so you can avoid the court's intervention, because the court will protect you. There's a system. If you become incompetent, we've got conservatorship, we've got guardianship. The court has a way, the state has a way to take care of you if you can't take care of yourself. But it's expensive, it's cumbersome, it's very uncomfortable to go through for family members. And in the alternative, if you have people that you can name to take care of these things, do that. And then you don't even need the court and attorneys and everybody to get involved in your business. They can just, you know, flip this
Right.
switch and take care of you and take care of your stuff for you. So that's really those life events is really a good argument for having an estate plan in place that's appropriate for you. And of course, when you pass away, you want to make sure distribution is there. If you have minor kids, you want to make sure the guardianships are there, the money gets handled correctly, and the kids don't end up with too much too soon, which we've seen that happen. It's in the headlines all the time. Celebrities or athletes that all of a sudden came into money, they weren't ready for it. Young people, they're just not ready for it, and then their life choices are bad. They become kind of victims of their own decisions. Um, so that's a really good argument for having like the end of life things put in place. Speaking of end of life, what about that? Who's going to pull the plug? Who's going to decide whether to donate your organs or authorize an autopsy? All of those things. Do you
Right.
want to be burned or buried? Is it really important to you to have a celebration of life? Do you want to be interned as a family somewhere? Are there plots somewhere? Somebody needs to know all that. And the more you can do while you're able, and the less that your family and people that care about you have to do later and try to guess what you wanted, that's a gift. That really is a gift to your family to sort through all of that and say, I want yellow roses. I don't want red roses. If I'm in the nursing home, I don't want you to prop me up to watch I Love Lucy. I want to watch the game on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff can be handled. So people, and a lot of times your family knows those things about you and it's going to be okay. But they might not know some of these very tricky personal decisions that, maybe it's not coffee conversation for you, but you can at least have documents that document your wishes and make sure that all those things will be carried out. And of course, most people when they come into the office and they want to get their trust done, they're trying to save money. They're saving court costs, they're saving probate fees, they're saving taxes, they're saving layers of taxes that might apply to their kids and grandkids. They're avoiding something that could be painful for the family. So a lot of times it's a fiduciary decision, but I think beyond that, having guardians set up and all these end of life issues and making sure your young family's okay, not just with the money, but with all of those other things, that's huge.
Awesome. And folks, we are at the tail end of the show. So we talked a lot about things, but it's time now for a money truth challenge. This has got to be another great one for sure.
Yeah, this one, I would put a line right down with your pen, put a line right down the middle of a piece of paper. And on the left side, I would put budgeting. On the right side, I would put estate planning. Because this is kind of, as I was just pontificating over some of these things, it's a big deal. And it's usually a big deal when you don't have it done. It's not a big deal to do. It's a big deal to not have it done. So on the left side of the page, I would just say, spending plan or budgeting, is there something there that I could do more, better, or different? Do I need to get an app? Do I need a spreadsheet? Should I get an accountant? Do I need to have a conversation with my spouse or my decision makers around me and just get a handle on the allocation of money as it comes in? What can I do there? On the right side of the page, I'd like to just have you put estate planning. And if there's any gap there that kind of maybe came to the surface as we were talking about this a little bit, just write down what that gap is. I need to update my will. I need to make a will. I need to make sure that my young adult children that just bought a house and have triplets, they get a will or a trust. Probably a trust would be a bit better for that. But just on the right side, what can I do? What can my family do to make that part just buttoned up? And I think that's going to be a great challenge for you. Do something about it besides write it down. Take some action between now and Sunday at 5:00. And I feel like our time is well spent. You've actually got some action items, something that'll make life better at your house. So that's your challenge. Go get it done.
All right, folks, you've heard the challenge. And if you're just joining us, hey, we are at the end of the show, but make sure that you watch the beginning because it is part 3 of a series of understanding the importance of personal and family financial planning. And I think what my takeaway from this is to always be proactive, not reactive. And Judy shared a lot of wisdom to make sure that you don't procrastinate, folks. Judy, any last parting words?
Yeah, it's hot. We're having a heat wave. And what I would like you to do is not only stay cool, but who else in your life needs to stay cool? What can you do for someone else? Offer a bottle of water to the guy out, working in the yard, the UPS guy, invite some neighbors over to swim in your pool. Do something to help somebody else cool off. That's your challenge. Have a great week.
Awesome. All right. Take care, guys. We'll see you guys here next Tuesday at 8 a.m. Watch the replay on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Until then, have a safe week.
Bye-bye.